Why does the mere fact that Christmas is approaching make your heart race, your breath become heavy, and memories you swore you'd overcome resurface as if they'd never left? There are people who go through the whole year relatively well, functioning, breathing, dealing with what they need to deal with, until December arrives. The weather changes, the lights come on, the whole world seems to enter the same frequency, a festive, noisy, affectionate frequency, and something inside them begins to silently twist. It's a feeling difficult to explain to those who don't experience it. A tightness in the chest that arises out of nowhere, a pressure in the throat, an internal agitation that sometimes feels like anxiety, sometimes like sadness, sometimes like a mixture of both. And suddenly, Christmas ceases to be just a date and becomes a trigger. Perhaps you've already experienced this. Perhaps you're experiencing it now. Perhaps you can't even clearly explain why this time of year affects you so much. But there's always a reason, even if you don't yet have the courage or clarity to name it. The truth is that for many people, Christmas isn't about celebration. It's about memory. And memories have a curious power. They appear not when we want them to, but when we are exposed to what awakens them. And almost everything about Christmas is an emotional trigger. The lights, the smells, the music, the talk about family, the pressure to be happy. Each element, however simple it may seem, can open a door you've tried to keep locked all year. And behind that door, there are stories. Stories that still hurt. Stories you might not want to revisit, but that insist on coming closer when December arrives. Stories about people who didn't welcome you, about tables where you didn't feel like you belonged, about conversations that left scars, about relationships that emptied you, about expectations that disappointed you. Maybe your mind says everything is fine, but your body doesn't believe it so easily, and that's where Christmas becomes dangerous. Not because there's anything wrong with the date itself, but because it forces you to confront parts of yourself that are normally dormant. Christmas exposes, without asking permission, the state of your relationship with your own history. And this confrontation, for many people, hurts. When we look at it through the lens of psychology, we realize that Christmas acts as a huge emotional mirror. It makes you ask yourself things you may have avoided all year. Things like, do I really feel like I belong? Do I feel seen? Are the people who will be close to me good for me? Do I need to protect myself from someone? Do I still carry old wounds that I haven't had space to heal? And these are questions that nobody likes to ask, because they reveal deep vulnerabilities. It's very common for sensitive, introverted, or emotionally wounded people to experience this increased anxiety around Christmas. It's not being fussy. It's not an exaggeration. It's the body reacting to something that was once perceived as a threat. And the threat, for many, wasn't Christmas. It was the people around them. People who judged, criticized, pressured, compared, belittled, or simply ignored you. People who may not even have realized the emotional impact they left. But you did, and your body remembers. What you feel doesn't come from nowhere. It's a warning, a signal, an attempt by your emotional system to tell you, I've already been through something that hurt me around this time. I'm afraid of reliving it again. The anxiety that appears when Christmas arrives is often your body trying to protect you from an experience that hasn't been fully processed yet. And you know this, even if you haven't put it into words. Many people say they don't like Christmas, but deep down, it's not Christmas they fear. It's the feeling of obligation. It's the contact with people who don't make them feel good. It's the pressure to appear happy when they're not. It's the fear of seeming out of place. It's the discomfort of being in environments where the body says, I should leave, but the mind says, I have to stay. And when this internal conflict occurs, the body reacts. The heart races. Breathing becomes short. The mind creates threatening scenarios even when nothing is happening. This is the nature of anxiety. It doesn't wait for real danger to appear. It reacts to the possibility of it. Perhaps you've felt this before. Maybe your chest tightens just imagining certain conversations. Maybe your hands sweat at the thought of seeing certain people again. Maybe your whole body goes on alert when you realize that December is moving by too fast. If this happens, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means you are deeply human. It means you have an emotional history that deserves to be understood, not ignored. It means there are wounds that still need space, a voice, care, and that Christmas, however paradoxical it may seem, is one of the times that most reveals these wounds. And that's why I want to ask you a question that perhaps you've never allowed yourself to answer. What exactly do you fear as Christmas approaches? The celebration, or the memories, the people, or how you felt around them, the beautifully set table, or the feeling of not belonging? This question isn't meant to accuse you. It's meant to set you free, because when you are able to identify the root of your pain, it stops controlling you. When you understand what truly triggers your discomfort, you stop feeling guilty for feeling it. In this first part, you don't need to have answers. You just need to recognize that there is something there, something worth looking at carefully, calmly, and honestly. If you've made it this far, there's something inside you that recognizes the truth behind the discomfort Christmas brings. And now, perhaps for the first time, you're realizing that the problem isn't the date itself, it's what it evokes. And I want you to imagine for a few seconds what would happen if you truly gave space to these feelings, instead of pushing them away. Imagine observing your own feelings as one observes something precious, even if it's painful. Imagine not running from anxiety, but listening to it. Because anxiety, however much it may seem like your enemy, is actually a messenger. It's just trying to warn you that there's something inside you that needs to be cared for. And it is precisely at this point that many people freeze. Because looking inward requires courage. A courage that no one applauds, no one sees, no one recognizes. It is a silent courage. A courage that only you know you are exercising. The end-of-year holidays, especially Christmas, act as an emotional mirror that is far crueler than it seems. They don't show who you want to be, but who you really are when the lights go out, when the conversations end, when the feast is over, and you are left alone with yourself. And this part, for many people, is the most difficult. That's why so many people prefer to avoid it. They prefer to be alone. They prefer to distance themselves. They prefer to invent excuses not to go. And deep down, they even prefer to feel guilty rather than feel vulnerable. Because vulnerability doesn't choose a good time to appear. It arises when you encounter something that touches your wound. And Christmas touches that wound powerfully. It touches it because it brings back moments when you felt small, when you felt invisible, when you felt out of place, when you felt you needed to be someone you weren't to be accepted. And when the body recognizes this pattern, it reacts in the only way it knows how, by increasing its state of alertness. And then the symptoms you already know appear. The heart races, breathing becomes short, the stomach churns, the mind creates imaginary scenarios so vivid they seem real. This doesn't happen because you're weak. It happens because you're human, and because your emotions are deep enough to still be alive within you. But here's something few people realize. The fear of Christmas reveals much more about their emotional needs than about their vulnerabilities. And one of the deepest needs a human being can have is the need for belonging. Belonging doesn't mean being with people. It means being in places where you can be yourself without fear of judgment. And many people have never experienced this within their own family. Many people grew up hearing criticism, comparisons, unattainable expectations. Many people learned to shrink away so as not to draw attention, to remain silent so as not to create conflict, to smile even when it hurt, to endure because it's Christmas, it's family. That's just how it is. And the effect of this doesn't disappear with time. It accumulates. It settles in the body's memory. It shapes how you react to the world, especially during emotional periods. You may even think you've overcome many things, but the body remembers everything. The body remembers the tone of voice that hurt you. It remembers the feeling of being at the table but not being present. It remembers the tension in your shoulders. It remembers the knot in your stomach. It remembers the night you went to sleep trying to hold back tears so no one would hear. It remembers every detail you tried to forget. And when December arrives, the body reacts even before you realize it. That's why I want to ask you an essential question, a question you may never have dared to ask. Are you really afraid of Christmas? Or are you afraid of reliving an old version of yourself? Because that's what hurts. That's what's so frustrating. That's what's stealing your peace. It's not the tree, nor the lights, nor the music. It's the emotional memory that dwells within you, silent, waiting to be recognized. And when you try to ignore that memory, it comes back even stronger. It comes back in your body. It comes back in your mind. It comes back in the feelings you can't control. And the only way to release it is by allowing yourself to look at it honestly, not with judgment, not with guilt, not with shame, with understanding. But before we delve any deeper, I want you to do something important. Share in the comments which part of Christmas bothers you the most. You don't need to go into detail, just describe the feeling. It can be something simple like the conversations, the family gathering, the pressure, the feeling of not belonging. This comment isn't just to engage with the video, it's for you to listen to yourself. When you put your pain into words, it loses some of its weight. It stops controlling you in silence. Now, returning to the reflection. One of the hardest truths about Christmas is that it's a time that highlights absences. Absence of true connections, absence of acceptance, absence of emotional care, absence of an emotional security you may never have had. And there's nothing more painful than watching the happiness of others while you carry your own open wounds. But at the same time, there's something powerful in this. When you acknowledge the absence, you also acknowledge the need. You identify what you lacked, and this recognition is the basis of healing. Because you can only heal what you are willing to look at. And perhaps what you truly desire, even if you've never admitted it, is not to avoid Christmas. Perhaps what you desire is to be able to experience it without fear, to be present without shrinking back, to be yourself without feeling the need to protect yourself all the time, to be able to breathe deeply without your heart racing at the thought of seeing certain people again. Perhaps you simply desire peace, and you deserve this peace, but it doesn't come from the outside. It comes from understanding. This is what we are building here. As we move forward in this reflection, I want you to realize something essential. The discomfort that Christmas awakens in you does not mean weakness, emotional immaturity, or exaggeration. It means that your sensitivity is functioning, that your emotional reading is intact, that your body and mind can still identify when something is unsafe, even if, rationally, you try to convince yourself otherwise. And it is precisely this sensitivity that has brought you here. Many people spend their lives ignoring their own feelings, swallowing their pain, numbing themselves to avoid facing the truth. But you somehow decided to listen to this discomfort. You decided to allow yourself to feel. And that, in itself, is a gesture of profound courage. Even if no one sees it, even if no one recognizes it, even if no one ever knows how much this silent battle costs you. At this moment, you might realize that there's a part of you that still feels small, a part that still carries echoes of past experiences, a part that wasn't fully embraced, heard, or understood. This part of you doesn't disappear just because time has passed. It's still there, waiting. And Christmas, with all its emotional symbolism, is one of the times that most awakens this wounded part. This is where many people get confused, believing they are sad because it's Christmas. But the truth is much deeper. Christmas is the stage where old memories come back to life, even if you didn't invite any of them. And emotional memories don't age. They just get lost. You may have grown, matured, changed your life, distanced yourself from certain environments, built new relationships, reached other places, but the part of you that was emotionally scarred still exists. And when it recognizes a scenario that resembles the original wound, even superficially, it reacts as if everything were happening again. This explains why the body reacts so quickly, why the heart races even before the mind understands the reason, why anxiety arises in a seemingly unjustifiable way. It's not unjustifiable. It's consistent. It's human nature. It's profound. It's about protecting yourself. And the more you try to ignore that feeling, the more it comes back. Because feelings don't disappear when they're denied. They become silent, and then return. They always return, especially on emotionally charged dates, like Christmas. But now, I want to bring you to an important point in this reflection. What exactly does Christmas do to you? Don't reply too quickly. Don't respond with pre-prepared phrases. Respond with emotional honesty. For some people, Christmas triggers a feeling of being watched, the fear of being judged, observed, analyzed, the fear of making a mistake, of saying something wrong, of being the target of veiled criticism or malicious comments that always surface at family gatherings. For others, it triggers a feeling of inadequacy, the feeling that they don't belong there, that they occupy the wrong seat, that they are a presence that nobody really wants there. For still others, it triggers loneliness, the memory that they never had someone who truly welcomed them, that they always felt emotionally alone even when surrounded by people. But there is a specific group, perhaps you are part of it, for whom Christmas activates the memory of emotional threat, that age-old feeling in the body that says, "Careful, this has hurt before. Stay alert. They've hurt you here before. Protect yourself. You are not safe." This type of memory doesn't depend on logic. It depends on experience. It depends on the emotional impact that certain people or environments had on you. And the most complicated thing is that often these people are still in your life. People who talk as if nothing happened. People who expect your presence at Christmas as if there were no story behind it. People you've learned to tolerate, not because you want to, but because you've been conditioned to it from an early age. And it's at this point that many people freeze. They know Christmas will be uncomfortable, but they feel obligated to attend. They know some conversations will hurt them, but they try to prepare themselves emotionally. They know a certain person will make that same old passive-aggressive comment, but they try to rehearse responses to better handle it. And while they do all this, their bodies become increasingly tense. Their hearts race. Their stomachs clench. Their minds go into a state of alert. This is not weakness. This is repeated emotional trauma in the form of tradition. This is the body telling it that it doesn't want to go through it all again. And here's something almost no one admits. For emotionally wounded people, Christmas isn't a celebration. It's a test of endurance. It's an emotional marathon. It's a silent test of how much can you endure without falling apart. And you know how much that wears you down. And maybe you've never told anyone this because those who don't feel it don't understand. Those who haven't lived it minimize it. Those who don't know judge it. Because it's very easy to look from the outside and say it's just a party. But when you carry difficult internal stories, Christmas ceases to be a party. It becomes a trigger. And the saddest part is that you learn to deal with it on your own. You learn to disguise it, to smile even when uncomfortable, to hide behind short answers, to endure harsh comments, to do your best to appear okay. But being okay, that's another story. And that's why I want you to continue reflecting on an essential question. What is your body trying to tell you as Christmas approaches? And why do you insist on not listening? The answer to this question could completely transform how you experience this time of year. And before we move on to the last part, I want you to realize something you may never have noticed. The fear you feel is not a sign that you are weak. It's a sign that you perceive things that many ignore. It's a sign that you see emotional nuances that others cannot see. And it's a sign that, despite everything, you still feel deeply, and feeling deeply is a gift that, when understood, can change your life. If something I said today resonated with you, leave your comment below. I want to hear your voice in the silence. And if this kind of reflection resonates with you, subscribe to the channel. There's so much more to explore within ourselves.